A few of the people I know started their introspection journey, their philosophical introspection journey, asking these deep questions like what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of everything? Why are we here? What's life? What's love? What's hate? And a lot of them came to the conclusion that I've also come to, which is that there is no meaning to anything. Nihilism is, in a way, the objective truth of the world, as depressing as it sounds, but that's the case. We are here as a very, very small piece of bread in a vast, infinite universe, and whatever we do, there is no point in it. Whatever we don't do, again, there is no point in it. Our lives are meaningless and everything is meaningless as well. Now, having that said, if we were to solely obey that religion, that law of nihilism, we would just be idle. We might as well take our lives. What's the point in it? But I believe that's a very wrong way to approach life. The proper way is to not solely rely on philosophy, because philosophy might just take you there, but also combine this with logic, with instinct, and with human nature. And that's when you realize that you can choose a meaning for life. You don't have to live in this ultimate truth in a way that's deceiving yourself, that's lying to yourself and being blind to the truth, but you are only here once, right? You only live on this planet once, you have only one shot at this, so why not make the best of it? Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter on the bigger scale, but do you actually need it to matter? Do you actually need it to be so fulfilling and, changing everything forever? Is that the only way you could live life? Because probably not. You probably want to live your life to please yourself as well, to experience the beauties of it as well. Maybe mostly to experience the beauties of it. And I don't mean indulging in hedonism through this. The beauties of life are oftentimes in fulfillment, and the fulfilling things are not always the pleasurable things in the moment. It's not hedonism. No, it's more like working on something purposeful and meaningful to you, working on something long-term, feeling like you help the people around you, maybe. That's what I'm trying to do. Of course, if we take the nihilistic pill and we think about this from a nihilistic frame of mind, we realize that, there is no point in doing this, because at the end of the day, you will vanish, people around you will vanish, and there will be nothing left. That's why thinking about this from such a philosophical standpoint alone is completely wrong, in my opinion. Now, there are many, many philosophers who tried to break this down of what's the meaning of life, and a lot of them came to the conclusion that it's absurd. And one philosopher whose work stuck with me is Albert Camus, who's basically the icon of absurdism. And this is exactly what he realized, that life is very absurd. Life is very complicated and simple at the same time, but also very meaningful and meaningless at the same time. And if we really keep asking ourselves these questions for way too long, we end up in a place where we are just overwhelmed. It's scary. It's very scary to think about the fact that everything will end. It's very scary to think about the fact that whatever you do has no meaning, that you change nothing through the things that you do, that you achieve nothing through the things that you perceive as being achievements. And that's why the tactic he came with is to laugh at the absurdity of life. And when you do that, it just takes the pressure off so much. It's a very freeing experience, a very freeing frame of mind, but I believe we should still keep this in mind all the time, that life is absurd. if you don't have this in mind, life is absurd, that everything is meaningless, you tend to go to the other extreme, which is being extremely anxious and worrying about how things will turn out, how people will judge you, what everyone will say about you. Maybe you don't achieve your goals, but that's why the nihilistic pill is key here, because if you're too worried, you can always take it and be like, okay, so what? It doesn't matter anyway. But then, as I said, we have to be careful to not go too deep in that side, where we end up being like, nothing matters anyway, so we might as well not even live anymore. No, that's not the idea. There is a synergy, as I said, between logic, feelings, and philosophy. We are nothing more than animals that have consciousness as a weapon. And consciousness is a curse as well. I think Schopenhauer used to say that animals are much happier than us because they have no consciousness. We have this curse of, reflection and thinking about life, thinking about things in perspective, thinking about these deep, meaningful questions. But there is no point in that, is there? So what's the action point? What's the takeaway from this video? What's the takeaway from everything we've discussed so far? The takeaway is that you can choose a meaning for your life, and you should choose a meaning for your life. You should have something that's very purposeful to you. You should have a pursuit that means a lot to you. But at the same time, you also have to let things happen and to not be too overwhelmed by the fear of not achieving it. Because what if you don't achieve it? There is no point in it anyway, is there? So, I don't know, maybe this was a bit all over the place, but I hope you managed to find some value in my video, in my realizations. And maybe the questions of what's philosophy and what's the meaning of life and how does philosophy fit in everything that we've talked about is a bit more clear to you. Maybe it's a bit more confused, but hopefully that's not the case.